The difference between a Band 4 and Band 6 English essay isn't just better quotes or fancier words. After sitting the HSC myself, scoring a 99 ATAR, and speaking with English teachers across New South Wales, I discovered something. Band 6 essays all follow a specific structure that helps them achieve the best marks, one that's different from what most students are taught or are doing in their essays. So in this video, I'll share the exact structure called PEAL that Band 6 students use and how it differs from the standard approach, a simple thesis statement formula that answers any essay question, the ideal number of quotes per paragraph, hint, it's not what you think, and the conclusion technique that makes markers remember your essay. And all of this can be used across modules A, B, and C. Let's start with the foundations and how you're going to structure your essay. The foundation of every high-scoring essay starts with understanding how to use PEAL effectively. We've all learned PEAL, point, evidence, explanation, and link since year 7. But there's a significant difference between knowing the structure and applying it effectively in HSC level essays. Most students think they're using PEAL correctly, but their essays still aren't hitting those top bands. Let's talk about timing first, because this is where most students trip up. In your HSC exam, you'll have 40 minutes for each essay. Most students make the mistake of using all 40 minutes just for writing. This is where things start to fall apart. Instead, you need to break down those 40 minutes strategically. The first 5 minutes should be dedicated purely to planning. I know it feels like you're wasting precious writing time, but these 5 minutes will save you from writing yourself into a corner. The next 32 minutes are for writing. This gives you roughly 8 minutes per paragraph, including your introduction and conclusion. That might not sound like much time, but with proper planning, it's absolutely achievable. The final 3 minutes are for checking your work. Even a quick review can help you catch major errors that could cost you marks. Now, let's break down exactly what needs to fit into those 32 minutes of writing time. A strong Band 6 essay typically runs to about 1,000 words. That breaks down into an introduction of around 150 words that sets up your argument clearly, 3 body paragraphs of approximately 250 words each, and a conclusion of about 150 words that ties everything together. The key to hitting these targets isn't writing faster, it's planning smarter. When you plan properly in those first 5 minutes, you know exactly what you're going to write in each paragraph before you even pick up your pen. Let me show you exactly how to create a plan that will guide you through writing a Band 6 essay, starting with the most crucial element, your thesis statement. Your thesis statement is the backbone of your entire essay. Most students write something generic, like the text explores themes of power and corruption. That's exactly what puts you in Band 4 territory. Let me show you what a Band 6 thesis looks like. The difference? The second thesis doesn't just state what the text is about, it shows how and why these elements work together. It gives your marker a clear roadmap of your argument. Let's break down what makes a strong thesis. First, it directly answers the question. If you're asked about power, your thesis needs to specifically address power, not dance around it with vague references to themes. Second, it identifies specific techniques or elements. Notice how a Band 6 thesis mentions manipulation of language and surveillance, rather than just saying techniques. Third, it explains the impact. We're not just saying what happens, we're explaining why it matters. In this case, how it leads to the destruction of individual thought. I'll show you how to craft these kinds of thesis statements for any question you might face. But first, let's look at some real HSC questions and practice building strong thesis statements together. Let's look at a typical HSC question. To what extent does your prescribed text reveal the impact of individual choices? Most students panic when they see "to what extent" because they think they need to agree completely or disagree completely. That's not true. Here's how to break down any HSC question to create a strong thesis. We'll use Module A as an example. First, identify the key terms. In this question, they're individual choices and impact. Your thesis needs to address both. A basic response might say, both texts show how characters make choices that affect their lives. But if you want to ace this section, the response needs to dig deeper, like this. Pause to read and then let's look at the difference. Can you see how it takes a clear position, compares both texts, shows understanding of the deeper meaning, and sets up specific points to discuss? Now, let's practice building a thesis for your text. Your introduction needs to expand on this thesis. This is where many students make a crucial mistake. They try to cram everything into one paragraph. Instead, use what I call the 3-sentence rule for your introduction. Your thesis statement, your first point with a specific example, and your second point with a different example. This gives your marker a clear picture of where your essay is heading. Now that we understand how to craft a strong introduction, let's move on to body paragraphs. Your body paragraphs make or break your essay. Most students understand PEAL superficially, but let me show you how high-performing students use it to create sophisticated arguments. Let's start with point. A common mistake is writing something like, Orwell shows how language is controlled. This tells your marker nothing about your understanding. Instead, your point needs to connect to your thesis, identify a specific technique, and show its purpose. Here's what that looks like. Now for evidence. You need 3 to 4 quotes per paragraph, but they must work together to build your argument. Let me show you how. Look at how each piece of evidence builds on the last. We start with the creation of new words, move to the deliberate reduction of language, show its impact on individual thought, and end with its broader societal implications. Your analysis needs to do 3 things for each piece of evidence. Explain the technique being used, show how it creates meaning, and connect it to your broader argument. For example, don't just write "this metaphor shows control." Instead write, by describing language as being cut down to the bone, Orwell's violent metaphor reveals how the destruction of words is actually an act of violence against human consciousness itself. The balance between quotes and analysis is crucial. For every quote you need a sentence explaining what the technique is, a sentence showing how it works, and a sentence linking it to your broader argument. Let me show you how this works with 3 different types of paragraphs. 1 analysing language techniques, 1 comparing 2 texts, and 1 discussing themes and concepts. Let's look at these 3 different approaches to body paragraphs. Notice how each paragraph maintains clear peel structure while feeling natural, uses evidence that builds progressively, balance quotes with detailed analysis, and links each point back to the broader argument. Now let's tackle writing a conclusion. You're right. Let me expand the conclusion section properly. Your conclusion needs to do more than just wrap up your essay. It needs to elevate your entire argument. Let's break this down into 3 essential elements. First, move beyond restating your thesis. Instead of repeating your opening argument, show how your analysis has deepened our understanding. Here's what that looks like. Next, use the holistic summary technique. This means weaving your main points together to reveal their collective significance. Don't list your arguments, show how they connect. Finally, your conclusion must directly address the directive verb from your question. If the question asks you to evaluate, your conclusion needs to make a clear judgment. If it asks you to analyse, show the significance of your analysis. Your conclusion should feel like the natural culmination of your argument, not a rushed summary or desperate attempt to restate your thesis. Now that you have a good idea of how you should structure your essay, let's wrap up by having a look at how you can apply this in exam conditions. The biggest mistake I see students make isn't about knowledge, it's about time management. Most students dive straight into writing without a plan, then panic halfway through when they realise they're off track. Here's exactly how to break down your 40 minutes in the exam. Take the first 5 minutes to plan properly. Read your question 3 times, and I mean actually 3 times. Circle the directive verb and key terms. This might feel like wasting precious writing time, but it's these 5 minutes that will keep your essay focused and relevant. During these 5 minutes, get all your evidence onto the page. Write down your quotes, your key points, anything you know you want to include. Then quickly organise these points into a clear structure. Now you've got 32 minutes for actual writing. Spend 7 minutes on your introduction. This might seem like a lot, but a strong introduction sets up your entire essay. Give yourself 8 minutes each for your first 2 body paragraphs, 6 minutes for your third paragraph, and 3 crucial minutes for your conclusion. And those final 3 minutes of your 40 minutes, they're for checking. Read your first and last paragraph again, make sure your quotes are accurate, check that each paragraph clearly connects to your thesis. Here's a strategy that works really well. Draw a quick timeline on your paper before you start. Mark when you should finish each section. It might seem basic, but it stops you from spending too long in your introduction and rushing your conclusion. Speaking of conclusions, never sacrifice yours if you're running out of time. A strong conclusion can save a rushed middle paragraph, but a missing conclusion will cost you marks every time. One last practical tip, practice this timing structure before your exam. Write essays under exam conditions at home. Get comfortable with the pressure. All these essay writing strategies, from planning to execution, are built into our study software. It's specifically designed for HSC students. One of my favourite features is that we've also integrated past HSC tests with AI analysis. Upload your practice essays, and the software will give you specific feedback on your structure, argument development, and evidence integration. You can give it a go using this link or click it in our bio. See you in the next one.